On this episode of the 520 Collective Podcast, what is a woman is the question that Matt Walsh asked in his new documentary, and we're here to discuss it. We also have the host of How It All Werks, Kirk Nugent, joining us for this month's Industry Insider interview. Let's go.
Hey, y'all, message heavy, don't prime show, they not ready, race against the time like four wheels and hands ready, keep it steady, beat it hard and they barely give them ears to hear the truth in the light, blow confetti, yeah, message heavy, don't prime show, they not ready, race against the time like four wheels and hands ready, keep it steady, beat it hard and they barely give them ears to hear the truth in the light, blow confetti, just the flip of the watch, it's game time, flip of the watch, it's game time, vibes, just the flip of the watch, it's game time. 20, flip of the watch, it's game time. Just a flip of the watch, it's game time. 20, flip of the watch, it's game time. 5, just a flip of the watch, it's game time. 520, flip of the watch, it's game time. 520.
520 Collective. Listen every day or get robbed. I'm kidding.
Yo, what's up? You're tapped into the 520 Collective Podcast. It's Indie Christian Culture, and I'm your host, Eric in Boston, here with my co-host, Zero for Hire. What's good, man?
What's good?
Dude.
I signed up for the Daily Wire.
Oh, yeah?
I had to drop that $15.
Right? And then you shared it
just
with me.
Just for this podcast.
You shared it with me. Do not listen to that Ben Shapiro. He did not share anything with me. I'm making stuff up right now. So.
I'm waiting to see where you're going with it.
I just don't want you to get in trouble, man. That's all. We've been doing some cool stuff, trying out Twitter Spaces. Right? And that's going pretty cool. We've had some artist interviews and we had a discussion. We're planning more discussions. So I want to make sure that people know that we're doing this. So if you want to be a part of it, one, whenever you see that we're live in Twitter Spaces, just join. That's the first thing. But two, if you join our Twitter community, which is basically a feed for just 520 Collective. So go join the 520 Collective Twitter community, and you'll get some, exclusive content that we post only there, including early notification that we're going to do stuff like Twitter Spaces. So I just want y'all to do that. Anything else that we've been doing this past month, man, that I need to make sure that people know about? I don't know that we've really been doing anything else other than the Twitter Spaces
and the community. Just kind of focusing on that.
Yeah.
Right now. I think that's enough.
Yeah, for sure. So go make sure. I mean, we're getting a little bit more active on Twitter, and using some of these tools that they've rolled out. So let's see what it does. We both watched this new documentary, What is a Woman, and Zero kind of brought it to the table. He was like, "Man, you need to watch this, and we need to talk about it." So I'm gonna throw it over to you, man. Why was this something that we needed to watch and talk about on this episode?
Okay, so, well, first of all, me and my wife have been seeing a lot of advertisements for it, and the more that I'm seeing it, the more like, okay, I see it, okay, I see it, but it's just becoming more and more compelling. I'm like, I'm really actually interested, but I hadn't really talked to my wife about it, and we tend to watch like YouTube videos together every night. Well, eventually, there was a really long preview, and she and I watched it, and she was like, we need to get this, because she's a big fan of Candace Owens. She's good for the drama, and she's good for confronting people right on TV, and it's pretty good. So I was like, yeah, I think my wife might enjoy this, and I played it for her. She liked it. So we decided, let's just drop the $15. They got a bunch of movies. They got some kids programs. They got a bunch of stuff that we didn't really know was in the works, and see what it's about, because it makes for good conversation about what is creating culture. So with the Daily Wire, I don't really look at them as creating Christian culture. There's more so creating conservative culture. It's really important to think about who your audience is when you're creating things, and how your audience is going to receive what you're putting out there, because they already have their perceptions.
So, and that actually goes right along with the question I was going to ask you, as far as like having us talk about it on this podcast, man. You just said it, the Daily Wire is focusing on conservatives, right? That's their audience. We are talking about indie Christian culture here at 520 Collective. Where's the connection between those two for you? I mean, I think there's an obvious one when you talk about who's behind this documentary, but I want to hear your thoughts, man.
Christians in the culture and conservatives have a lot in common. And I've heard it say that like Black America has a lot in common with conservative culture. When you look at our values, we believe in family. We believe in hard work. We believe in making a way for yourself. We believe in upholding tradition. That's always what it's been. But when it comes to politics, you have these two sides that are saying things about each other that may or may not be true. And a lot of people just don't pay close enough attention to know whether or not that's true. And so that's kind of what woke me up to the differences between the politics and the culture side of things. Because you look at the Black church, and a lot of that is very conservative. When I hear the Daily Wire talking against those things, a lot of it resonates with me, because as a Christian, I'm like, yeah, they got a lot right here. This shouldn't be this way. Politics aside, I can agree that we shouldn't have things like Drag Queen Story Hour.
Yeah. Well, and
I don't know if that's a good groundwork for you.
Well, no, it's fine. I get it. And well, here's the thing for me that also makes it pretty simple is, yes, Matt Walsh is part of the Daily Wire, but he's also a man of faith, and he doesn't hide that. So, I mean, I think there's that connection as well. Obviously, the reason why it's relative to what we're doing here at 520 is because he is a man of faith, and this is a topic that, however you want to look at it, it bleeds over into the Christian culture. And that's why I think we're going to have this discussion and why we took the time to watch this documentary. So
you have the conservative culture, you have the church. We can't agree with those things. And then with Matt Walsh being a Christian and an outspoken Christian and open about his faith, he's a safe person to really look at when you look at the crossing of these two spheres between the church and the culture. And I also want to really press on the fact that there are people who are intentionally trying to cross that Venn diagram. It's like, I have these cultural views and I'm a part of the church, and I'm trying to combine them the best way I can. I mean, like, that's how we got Christian rap in the first place. At the hip hop world, you had the church. Somebody wanted to bring that together. What they're trying to do is cultural, and they're trying to bring it together using the prism of their faith as a perspective.
I guess this is a good place, Eddie, for me to talk about the one thing that I did see, and then I'm gonna give it to you, and we're gonna run through it, and we're gonna hit on, we're gonna actually get into responding to this documentary, right? But I did read this one statement, and I totally agree with it. What Matt Walsh did here was he addressed a faith issue, but he did it by following like the secular rules. Like when you watch it, he's not coming at it from the angle of faith. You don't hear God talked about in the documentary. You don't hear, why Christians would have a problem with all this. Still, where he's coming from is a place of faith, but he came at it playing by the rules of the secular world. And I think that's why it is very well done, and why Christians can get behind it as well.
You have this. There's a saying that all conflict is essentially theological, and so on its face, we have a theological conversation. We have a theological concept or confrontation on our hands, because if somebody wants to say gender is a social construct and sex is biological, and they're different. And somebody of one sex can be a different gender, but then at the same time, in the same conversation, say this gender is that sex, then you have you have conflicting arguments. So it's an illogical argument. And so the person who actually has a position that they want to defend, they need to logically ask questions and probe the person that they're debating about it based on what they say the perception is. And when you find out you have like a circular argument, one of the scenes in the video or in the movie is where this happens a lot, but there was one scene with the professor and he says, "What is a woman?" And the guy's like, "Anybody who's something feels like a woman or whatever." He says, "But what is that?" "Well, it's a person who identifies as a woman." "Which is what?" And he says it again. And then Matt Walsh says, "Do you know what a circular argument is? This is kind of like what you're doing right now." And it's pointing out the fallacy here that like you cannot use the word that you're defining in the definition. But we've just gotten so laissez-faire about like just letting people do whatever they want that somebody actually had to point out the absurdity of what this whole movement is.
Again, I go back to, for us as a platform, right? I don't think it's really us trying to convince non-believers to change the way they're thinking. I mean, we hope that we can impact them and lead them to the truth that we found. But I think the big thing for us is to keep on challenging each other so that we make sure that we're all, rooted in that biblical foundation like we've talked about in the past, right? And to me, that's the bigger problem. That's where I say we can definitely address people that's supposed to be our brothers and sisters, right? Mm-hmm. I hope I can show non-believers, a little bit of the truth where they get curious and they get asking questions and they go seek for that truth. But at the end of the day, it's kind of pointless for me to argue with a non-believer because we don't have common ground. Well, he definitely did, went into deeper concepts and ideas on this documentary. It all boiled down to something very simple. Like you said, this logic, or I like to say just plain common sense, and then asking the simple question, what is a woman that all these people in academia weren't able to answer? We looked at Romans 1, and I think it definitely applies to what we were seeing in this documentary of God giving people up to a debased mind, right?
Reprobate.
So
in some translations.
Yeah. But I mean, but basically minds that were not, set in logic and common sense, right? That's essentially what it's saying. And then at the end of the chapter, it talks about how there were believers, right? There were people who knew the truth, but who had bent and went along with some things for so long that it wasn't even an issue of them letting stuff slide. They were just flat out, they were telling people that, you know what, you doing this is okay. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Right? And that's where we're at.
Like, why would a person let that slide?
Yeah.
Like when another Christian is just like, oh, it's just to each their own and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you got a grown man up there dressed like Raggedy Ann and in front of kids. And it's like, that should bother you. And it doesn't. I don't even wonder why anymore. I've been saying for the last, four episodes or so, it's because they want to be somebody in the world. They really do. They want to be somebody in that system. That's more important to them. People who let that stuff slide. It's just, now holiness is not even an issue anymore. That's where this whole thing goes for me. So
yeah,
this documentary is well needed.
So okay, so go further with that.
Go further with it.
Go further with that right there, dude. Because that's
what
with that statement that you just made. Because that is that is definitely, however you look at it, a strong statement. You said this is well needed. Break that down a little bit more. What makes it so?
We don't talk enough. Like, we just decide that the other is a certain way, and we decide that they think this, they have this line of thought, and we have this fictional other in our minds. Make it real simple. When I was growing up in the hood, it was always, well, white people do this. White people think this way. White people talk this way. White people do these things. And I had to really go out and find out for sure, like, are white people really like this? Or is it just something that comedians, because, comedians say stuff just to make you laugh. But there are, like, dumb people who think that it's really like that. Or there are people who focus on the wrong points of the joke, and then so they walk around with this warped perspective. That's what Matt Walsh broke through, because you could just sit around and complain, oh, the left. But until you actually go out and start talking to people about what they believe, then you can't really be sure whether or not your perception of that other group is even true. So he goes out and he's not just talking to academia professors and elites. He's talking to a lot of other different people. And there are some elites in this, like famous people. And he's also talking to, your regular layman down to earth person, like the comic book store owner or the women in the Women's March. And the one woman says to him, if you're not here for women, we ask you to leave. And he says, what is that? Because he's asking, what is a woman? And they're getting mad at him. And it's like, you're there to defend the women's rights, but you won't talk to him about what is a woman?
Dude, here's the one thing that I really appreciate about the documentary. And this is another example of him coming at it from the perspective of a person of faith as well, right? At no point in this documentary, I mean, I don't know. Obviously, we didn't see every bit of film. So maybe they just
we didn't
put it
see
in
the whole
there.
take.
So
that's how the documentary is made to persuade you. That's the purpose of it.
But at no point do we see Matt Walsh getting angry at people. At no point does he approach
Lash
them
out or fight back
or make them think that he, hates them, or he doesn't say anything to try to make them feel less about themselves, right? He's treating them respectfully. Even whenever he tries to answer, there's plenty of times where he asks these simple questions and people obviously are frustrated with the fact that they can't give him an answer. Or I think probably more likely what the truth is that they could give him an answer, but they know if they give him the answer, the only answer possible, it's going to contradict what they've been saying up to this point. Simple questions that make them say, the interview is going to be over if you don't stop, right? And he's like,
and he said you're using words like truth and objective, and that's very transphobic. And he's like, the truth is transphobic, and then he didn't even want to answer that.
Well, or
just keeps digging his own hole.
Or look at what he did. I know we're kind of jumping around in the documentary.
No, fine, jump around.
But I mean, even look at whenever he was talking to the doctor about chemical castration, right? And she didn't want to talk about it. She's like, "Well, you're using that for this reason. You're using those terms to come at it from this angle." And his response is,
let's talk about the drug Lupron that they use to castrate pedophiles.
Yeah. So, but he
chemically,
but what does he do? He doesn't push her on. He just says, "Well, hold on. Let's simply look at the definition of it and see if it's relevant to the conversation or not." Right? He pulls up that medical definition, and still she's like, "Yeah, but I don't care." You're saying stuff that's hurting my agenda right now.
In that scene is you have the doctor who's like, she just wants to be perceived a certain way, and then everything that she says, even when she's like shown to be like defending something deplorable, she's like, yeah, but still. And that's something I talk about all the time, is like you'll argue people into a corner, but that ideology is first and foremost, so their answer is always going to be yeah, but still. So she proves that. But then you also, the thing that Matt Walsh is doing is it's funny, and he knows it's funny, and they know that it's funny. And there's a mutual knowledge that, oh, I see what you're doing here. So he's kind of trolling them. He's doing what like, a sixth grader with a video camera would be doing. Is like, what? I'm just asking a question. It's just a simple question. It's like, no, it's not a simple question. I mean, it is, but it's a simple question that's meant to entrap you, and you know it, and they know it. And you know that they know it, and so that's what makes it funny. And they just don't like that they're the butt of the joke and they can't get out of it. So I won't give them that it's just a simple question. Like, no, it's a genius arrangement of questions to get them to hang themselves. You're just giving them enough rope to hang themselves with because their ideology is stupid.
Yeah, but I mean, I think
I see why they're getting mad.
But here's the thing,
I still think it's funny.
But he built this all around a super simple question. And I'm with you, dude. I think this is a documentary that, like, it was very well done. Some documentaries... Oh, I'll say this. Most documentaries, even if they're good, most documentaries have, they hit that point where you hit that lull, and it kind of drags you, and you're like, oh.
Yeah, especially conservative documentaries. They're, like, so boring for because you know what it is? They want to show that they're being objective and fair. And what Matt Walsh, he's not doing that. I feel like what he's doing is objective and fair. He's kind of trolling him a little bit. He's using humor. Like, when you lean into the perspective that you're trying to bring to the table, then it's entertaining for the people who are there for that. So that's what he does. He leans into the fact that it's funny that they can't answer their own question. Look how big of fools they are. They've built this entire empire on something and forgot to build the first foundational steps. That's the whole joke. And he's leaning into that. And he's not trying to act like, well, it's just simple and objective and blah, blah. It's not. Nobody believes that.
Well, and another thing...
I think that's what makes it good, though.
And another thing that he did, like you said, there is that humor in it. there's also, very high quality video wise. It is
Excellent
it is a
video.
nice
Excellent
looking
video.
documentary. And whatever number it is.
I do
1, 2,
feel
3,
like
whatever.
this was an hour long, maybe a 45-minute long documentary that they had to go get some more footage for, because the color grading is different, like on every scene, especially toward the end of the movie. The color grading keeps changing, and I'm like, okay, I see they had to keep adding. I'm not trying to fault them because color grading is stupid hard, but yeah.
But I think the other thing that makes it so well done, though, is also they don't get stuck on one thing. It jumps around a lot, right? It keeps you engaged. It doesn't let you start drifting, right? No particular scene is more than, 7 minutes long before it goes on to something else. Now it might come back to some stuff later on, and it comes back and it jumps back and forth several times, but that movement keeps it where you're like, okay, you never get bored.
The key is that this is something I hope if I ever get a chance to do a documentary, I remember. The key is that you have a character who is trying to get from point A to point B. And in this case, he's trying to find the answer to this question. And so he's traveling the world and talking to all these people in search of an answer. And then you say at the end of the documentary, he says, well, here's how you get your answer. And then he goes back home and he gets his answer. That's what makes it good, is there's a journey to follow. And so there's a reason for him to be doing that. A lot of conservative documentaries, it's just like, here's what expert says about X, and here's what this other expert says about X. And it's just so freaking boring. Like, Christians and conservatives are like equal in this whole boring because they just want to be objective crap, where the liberals have a really good job of telling stories, maybe a little too much, because some of these documentaries are mockumentaries. But yeah, telling stories to get their point across. That's what made this documentary so good.
One thing I wanted to hit on, he does go all over, right? He goes all over the United States. He goes into Canada. So the majority of the documentary, he focuses on the West.
He went to Nairobi, though.
That's what I was going to say. What did you think about that part? So he goes to Nairobi. He's talking to a tribe, and their responses are hilarious. Like, give me your thoughts on that scene.
It's hilarious because it's so grounded. It's like they said point blank, a man has a duty that a woman cannot fulfill, and a woman has a duty that a man cannot fulfill. Now, we here in the West have fallen in great degree to an embarrassing level, because we still let feminism drive our lives. Like, there's a lot of guys my age that have recently, like in the last 10 years, kind of woken up to the fact that like our moms lied to us about a lot of stuff. Out of this, feminism is just our baseline, and it takes a lot to climb out of that. In Nairobi, that's not the case. They were just like, these are women's responsibilities, these are men's responsibilities. You have to do these things. It's a duty. And so they understand not just the diversity of the gender roles, but they understand the meaning of duty. And I've talked to people from different parts of Africa, working in my younger days, where they were like, I just don't understand why you guys put your parents in nursing homes. I don't understand why you guys do these things, like things that we think is normal. They don't think it's normal, like childcare and nursing homes and not taking care of your family and all this stuff that we do. Is like, the world looks at us and they're just like, why? And we just have really bad customs in our culture.
Yeah. Well, and then I thought it was hilarious, and not only hilarious, but very telling, because we like to think of America as being the ultimate place, right? Like, everyone wants to come to America. Everyone wants to be here in order to chase the American dream and, have a better life. But then Matt Walsh is telling these tribesmen about all these different views and, these thoughts on being transgender and not binary and all this different stuff. And then he asked them, based on what I've told you, would you want to come and live in America? And their answer was just no.
And they're laughing at him.
They're like, no.
Never. They're swatting flies off of themselves and everything. And it's like, no, I would rather stay here in the bush swatting flies off myself all day long than have to deal with that nonsense.
we got a industry insider interview coming up in the second segment of the podcast. And this month, we've got Kirk R. Nugent. He is the host of How It All Works. You can find him on YouTube. You can find him on Amazon Live. And he does some really cool stuff. He talks about live streaming, using these visual platforms to boost your own platform, right? As well as, tech gear. We had a cool conversation about microphones. That's actually how I came across him. I was looking up some reviews on this mic I'm using now, the Shure MB7X, and
that mic actually looks really good.
It does, doesn't it?
On screen, it looks really good on screen. I'm a little bit jealous.
We're gonna get you taken care of, man, at some point here. We're gonna get you. But that's how I actually came across Kirk Nugent. He does really cool stuff, and he also does church consulting, which I didn't originally know. So, I mean, he's a man.
This dude is busy.
Yeah, dude. He does a lot of cool stuff. Really cool dude. So, stick around. Listen to the Industry Insider interview on the podcast after the break. And then, if you've got thoughts about, let me say this. If you've seen the documentary, we want to hear your thoughts and your responses to it as well. So, you could do a couple of things. You can go to Twitter, right? You can tweet at us. You can DM us. You can join the Twitter community and give us your thoughts, or go to the website and give us your thoughts in the comments, or join the Discord. I mean, there's a
Discord. There's more fun there.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Because we can get in on a video chat on the Discord.
We talk about whatever we want,
right?
Yeah.
Well, we can see, but the point is that when you're listening, we want to know what you think, right? As well, it's not all about what me and Zero think, because half the time, this is what I would say. I'm not smart, but I know some things, So,
and I'm probably wrong anyway. So I mean, just don't matter. Just come talk.
Yeah. So we want to get with you guys, and there's a lot of ways that you can connect with us and give us your thoughts. So do that. Let us know, especially if you've seen the documentary. Go on there. Let us know your thoughts, because, I think the one thing that we agree on, being Zero and myself, is that it is a very well done documentary, and it fills a spot that is really needed right now. So I want to see it. I want to see it.
I would watch it again.
Yeah, I would watch it again too.
I would watch it again, and I can't say that about most full feature movies.
Let us know your thoughts of the documentary, or if you're not choosing to watch it, let us know that too, I guess. And stick around for the Industry Insider interview. Again, it's Kirk R. Nugent, How It All Works. And yeah, thank you for listening to this month's episode here on the 520 Collective Podcast. Let's go!
What's up? It's the publisher here, Mr. Kelly Cole. You're rocking with 520 Collective Podcast. Keep it locked.
Artist, what is the key to getting your music to your target listener? Making sure that your catalog is available where people are listening. Trackstars is helping independent artists do just that with Nectar Distro. Sign up for Nectar today to have your music delivered for you to all the major digital streaming platforms, including Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, SoundCloud, YouTube, and much, much more. Go to 520collective.com/nectar, that's NECTAR now, to sign up and keep 100% of your royalties along with all of your music rights. With monthly payouts, comprehensive reports, specialty tools like the Single Maximizer and account management services, along with a dedicated team that understands your needs as an artist, it really is hard to beat what Nectar Distro and Trackstars bring to the table. So hit up 520collective.com/nectar to get started now. Hey guys, I want to say thank you for listening to the 520 Collective Podcast. This month's Industry Insider interview is coming up in just a moment. Before we listen in, make sure to check out 520collective.com. It is the home for indie news and faith-based hip-hop. Follow us on social media, including Twitter and Instagram at 520_co. Also, to get exclusive content, hit up our AudioMac account where you'll find extended interviews, playlists, and more. Let's jump into this month's interview. Welcome to this month's Industry Insider interview, brought to you officially by Bookkeeper247.com. All right, what's good, and welcome to the Industry Insider interview here on the 520 Collective Podcast. as always, we are being sponsored by the Bookkeeper 24/7. Check them out at tbk247.com, where the team, man, they are putting the culture on for God, repping Christian hip hop and just, really pushing forward what this subgenre means, man. So if you guys love CHH, you love Christian hip hop, go and support the Bookkeeper 24/7, because they're out here supporting you guys for sure. That is tbk247.com. And joining me right now on the 520 Collective phone line, he is the host of How It All Werks, Mr. Kirk Nugent. Excited to have him on the show. Welcome, sir.
Man, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, man. So how you feeling, man? How's 2022 treating you?
2022 is off to a really great start. Cannot complain. It's one of those things where 2021, although it had its challenges, I know from a worldwide perspective, I always want to be, respectful of the fact that we are in a pandemic and people have lost tremendously. But 2021 for me was a hallmark year, one that will definitely be in the books for years to come. But even in this little bit of 2022, I've already seen, some amazing and phenomenal things already taking place. So I cannot complain, man. I'm absolutely ecstatic and waiting with, expectation in terms of what we will see in 2022.
Yeah, man. And you are all about tech. I love it. We were having some conversations before we got started about just microphones and audio equipment and stuff. I mean, that's the kind of things I think when you're, in the podcasting world that you kind of, you can go a little geek over. Just give the people, man, a little bit of rundown of your background, man, and what you do. Obviously, we want to talk about the show here in a minute, but what's just what do they need to know about Kirk Nugent?
Man, first and foremost, I'm a self-professed Jesus geek, right? So that kind of embodies all of the things. One of the titles that people have given me is the geek speaker preacher, because I love to talk. And sometimes that talking does lend itself towards preaching. But I am definitely a tech at heart by trade and training, right? So went to school for this, came up through the ranks, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 5, tech support, client services, network telecom, all of these things. And then, of course, landed in leadership. And I think the leadership piece is what kind of, I guess what landed me in the leadership piece is the fact that I like to talk, and talking from the perspective of being able to understand the language of those that I come in contact with. Got a chance to live overseas for a number of years, 5 years in South Africa, and realized very quickly that even though we were speaking English, it wasn't the same English. And those skill sets of being able to shift and learn people's spaces and their uniqueness and their idiosyncrasies and their faults, their superpowers, and being able to navigate all of that and cherish it and respect it in all of its vibrance and all of its glory. That part, I think, is what really helped to catapult me into leadership and to do some of the things that God has actually caused me to experience in my life. So that's a little bit about me. I love all things tech, all things media and technology, and got a chance to start a channel while we were in South Africa called Advent Seat. It's still there to this day, thousands of views, but we largely have kind of let it go. And I've always done video for myself. Was doing a fitness vlog, if you will. I was trying to lose weight, ended up losing about 40 pounds over that time frame, and then. As I kind of started to transition out of higher ed, I was CIO for HBCU here in North Alabama. And as I started to transition out of leadership and higher ed and more into media and to content creation, I really began to harness a lot of those experiences, a lot of those skill sets that I've been honing and working on along the way to really create this space that I'm in right now. Honestly feel like this everything I've done has led me to this space that I'm in right now. And I really see it at the intersection of technology, media, leadership, but also technology, media, leadership, and faith. That's probably the best way to say it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And let's talk about the show, man. So you got How It All Werks. Yeah, let people know, man, like what is it about and where do they find it?
So it's howitallworks.com, and works is spelled with an E. And so it's HOWITALLWERKS.com. So howitallworks.com is the site. That's the show page. We have our latest YouTube videos there. We have our latest show there, which our show is Mondays at 7 p.m. Central Time. So wherever you are, if that's if you're in the East Coast, that's 8. If you're on the West, that's 5. So 7 p.m. Central Time, Mondays is when we have our live show. And there's a lot of things that we cover, mainly around live video and live video strategy and its impact for brands, businesses, thought leaders. My, what they call brand positioning statement, it goes something like, my name is Kirk Nugent, and I teach small businesses, faith-based entities, and entrepreneurs how to harness the power of live video, right? That's kind of the thing for me. And I always like to put it in those terms for people because I do feel like that is really has defined why I'm in this space. So that's where you can find us. Howitallworks.com is the show page. But if you're looking for anything else pertaining to me, Kirk, my website is kirkrnugent.com. And you got to put that R in there because there's another really great, phenomenal guy, another brother. And in fact, he even hails from the island of Jamaica like I do. And his name is Kirk Nugent and his website is kirknugent.com. So if you get him, he's a great guy, but that's not me. It's kirkrnugent.com, KIRKRNUGENT.com. And that's where you'll find, all my things, the coaching, the ebook, the courses, the master classes, all of the things that I offer, they're all there on those pages. I would love to, if any of the audience, anybody listening right now is like, oh, let me go check this guy out. I would love to hear from you. Book 15 minutes. It's right there on the site. Let's connect. I would love to hear from you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And, the thing that I've really enjoyed with watching your show and really just diving into it is, man, for some people, the whole video aspect of marketing and building your brand or your platform, it can be, and this is myself included, that's out of my wheelhouse. I'm not a video guy. But I feel like there's so much information and you make it accessible with your show. But again, that all goes back to your desire and your intent of, hey, this is important, right? If you're going to be an entrepreneur, if you're going to be a creative, this is an important thing you need to do. What is it about video that is so important today?
Yeah, that's good. So I'm gonna let me stay right where you're with your question, but I want to put something on it in a second. Video is important because it engages all of the senses. Somebody's gonna have to. If something is happening on screen, you've got to look, right? If something is happening on screen, you're gonna look, but you probably heard it first before you even saw it. And so those are two senses. But then, if somebody's sharing something on screen that is of value, you're going to now have to start thinking. And so you've already engaged 3 of those senses. You're not going to engage smell through video, but you can engage, interaction, right? So with the comment and, basically having people engage you with, even if somebody says something out loud as a response to what you're saying, you're engaging their speech as well. And you will also find that people will take content or things that they heard from a live show or a live video and they will repeat it to somebody else. Man, they said this on that show. You are engaging several of the senses when you are doing video. When you're doing video, you are engaging a lot of those senses. One of the things that I would put on top of it is that live video. See, the thing with video that is great. So you watch the review that I did on the mic, and that's a produced video, meaning there are bloopers, right? There are mistakes. There are things that I edited out. What I shared with you is the finished product. What I shared with you is what I want you to see. What I shared with you is a polished, finished thing. And once people see that, they can consume it. They can walk away and say, okay, good. I got what I needed. But when you're live, it is that much more difficult or transparent, really is the term, because you don't get a do-over. Like the camera's on, you're live, maybe there's a 15 to 20 second delay, There's no way for you to pull back something that you just said. And so what ends up happening for a lot of the people that I work with and for, I mean, it doesn't matter, brands, thought leaders, multi-million-dollar corporations and their leaders who are recognizing that we need to get in this playground. We need to now start doing video, not because they have some, there's some gold out there, but your audience and the fact that you have an audience, the effort to grow an audience is going to be a major form of currency as we go into the future. There are certain playgrounds you can't play on even now unless you have an audience. And so people like you with this podcast, you have an audience and you can play in spaces, Eric, that other people can't play in because you have an audience. And so if you think about that just for a second, it's like, wait a minute. I have currency, right? I have a marketable product. I can have something that I can shop around to other people that even organizations, businesses, enterprises don't have. I was talking with a guy who is a former athlete. He did some, sports announcing on several of the major network television stations, but he never had a space for himself. So now he's getting into live streaming because the audience is waiting for him. They just don't have a headquarters. And so what people are doing with live streaming is not only galvanizing an audience around their thing, whatever that thing is, but they're also broadcasting their brand, right? They're putting it out there in a way that they would not have been able to do were it not for live video. So one of the things that I always like to share with folks is that live video is at the top of that content creator, that content creation pyramid, because you can take from live video and make the podcast. You can take from live video and make the blog post. You can take from live video and make the reel or the story or the quote meme. You can take from live video and make the audiogram. You can take everything out of a live video, but you can't get a live video from any of those other products. And that's why I'm just such a proponent of live video.
Obviously YouTube is kind of the king when you're talking about that live video, but there's a lot of places that you can come across it. And I think one that you're tapped into that really kind of piqued my interest was Amazon Live. Like talk about that a little bit, because I think that's a platform. I mean, obviously everyone knows Amazon, and it's this huge company, but I think Amazon Live may be a little bit of uncharted territory for a lot of people. So just talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, man. Amazon Live is actually not new, but it is new to many people. I can't tell you how many times in the course of a week where I'll say, just check out my Amazon live show, and they'll be like, what? There's a show? You can watch video on Amazon? So it's very much a thing. Amazon Live is, in my opinion, this is Kirk's definition, it's like a crowdsourced home shopping network. What I mean is the people that are on there are not necessarily paid to be on there. The people that are on there, for the most part, at least the way the rules are set up, should be talking about things that they are enthusiastic about, right? So you're going to talk about the things that you have purchased from Amazon that you have in your home, that you're using for different things. So Amazon Live is essentially an extension of the shopping experience that Amazon has built out, which they've done phenomenally well. Let me add, that shopping experience is curated from the time you have the thought and you type it in the search term, and then you get to Amazon and you add to the cart, and then you purchase it and you get it in 2 days or less, and you have that box at your door with the little smile on it. They've curated the entire process. And so what they've added now is the ability for you to be able to buy with confidence. What do I mean by that? The ability for you to hear from somebody who has already purchased something you're looking at, why they purchased it, why they like it, or why they don't like it. You can be shopping on Amazon. You can scroll down a product page that you're looking at, and right there on the page, you will see maybe a video of somebody who previously talked about this item. But in a lot of cases, happening more and more frequently, you will see somebody who's live, who has that product in their carousel. If you click on that thing, it will bring up the influencer's live page. You can unmute. You can jump in the chat just like you would on any of the other platforms. You can talk with them. Hey, I'm looking at this device. Can you tell me a little more about it? And that little piece of interaction can be the difference between somebody making the purchase or somebody making a different purchase, right? So Amazon Live is a great space for that. And one of my family jokes with me saying that my love language is question. And one of the things I absolutely love is question. So what I also love about Amazon Live is that because people are on the platform shopping already, they already have their questions. Like, what are we shopping for today? Oh, well, I'm shopping for this, but I'm looking at this. I'm looking at this. All right, cool. Let me help you with some perspective. Let me give you the bigger picture, especially if it's anything live video related. And that's what I do on that platform. I try to stay right in my lane. I'm not trying to talk about comforters and clothes and makeup or anything like that. I stay right in my lane. Anything to do with media, anything to do with live video or content creation, that's what I try to highlight on that platform. It's a great platform. I highly recommend folks check it out. Amazon.com/live.
Whenever I've watched a couple of your lives, man, and the thing that you do a fantastic job with is kind of seamlessly interacting with those people who are, on the live, right? Who are in the comments, and you're able to move between responding and reacting to the audience while still, talking about, the focus of your video as well, right? Of your live stream. And man, I feel like that is, I don't know. I just want to get your perspective on it. Like, is that like a skill that is teachable? Or is that something that you just kind of have to naturally have? Because, like I said, whenever I watch you do it, man, it's so just, it's almost like it's just part of it. Like you're not even thinking it and moving in and out of it. And I know for some people that is kind of a daunting thing.
Yeah, this is a really great question. I mean, for me, I recognize that my history is different than many others, but then in some cases it's not. One of the things I recognize, and this is, I did a stint as, where I thought I was going to really go full force into public speaking. So I did a number of trainings and programs to really ready me for that space. And one of the things that they taught us in that space is that everybody's a speaker. And it never really occurred to me, like, you have been speaking from the time you were born, and you will probably be speaking till the time you die, unless something physically happens to remove your ability to speak. And so it's just a matter of finding the cheat code that allows you to get comfortable, right, in speaking, right? So when you see me, I have set up my cheat code to get me into a place. Because I know when I sit down with my family, my siblings, there's four siblings. I'm right in the middle. I'm number 3. There's 2 above, 2 below. And when I sit down with them, we don't need an agenda. We don't need, an outline. We don't need prompts or cues or anything like that. We just laugh and talk and chill. And what I know of myself is that if I can get into that mode, I will be very comfortable. I'll be very natural. I'll be able to pull out the laughter or the comedy from different pieces. We have these inside jokes. What I recognize is if I can get myself to that space, and of course, everybody has that cheat code for themselves to get themselves to that space. And this is another thing that I learned from public speaking as well, is that you have to know as a speaker, what mode you need to be in to deliver. The guy that I was doing my coaching with, his name's Grant Baldwin, is out of Nashville. And he has his pre-show, his pre-speaker routine is listening to Lose Yourself by Eminem, which is hilarious because he's a former youth pastor. So I'm like, okay, Grant, help me here. But he says just something about the energy. When he takes the stage, he's ready. And that's the version of himself that he wants to be. Eric Thomas talks about doing 50 push-ups. I don't do, that's not a Kirk thing. But I know you've got to find your cheat code that's going to get you into the space that allows you to feel comfortable to show your unguarded self. The person that you are at the cookout, right? Chilling, grabbing a turkey leg from auntie, whoever. It's that person that you want to show. And when you are that person, guess what? Everybody else comes down to. And that is the thing that I think you experience, Eric. When you see me live, I have already put in place my cheat code to get me into that comfortable place. And so I treat the camera as my family. That's just the way that we are looking at one another. I treat the comments as, my cousins, and they're chatting it up, and some of them are mischievous, some of them are serious, some of them I have malintent, but I just treat them all like they're all family members, and I'm just here, orchestrating things like, oh, so hey, we want to hear so and so. Oh, bet, let me put that up. I just keep the conversation flowing because I've found a way to get myself into that place where I'm comfortable to be my unguarded self. And I think that's the power of live video is that you're actually not looking to be polished. And if somebody is thinking about doing live video right now and you're saying to yourself, no, Kirk, I can't do this. I would dare say to you that without a camera, you're doing live video every day. You see that? You see what I did there? Without a camera, you're doing live video every day. And so because you're already doing live video every day, all you've got to do is add a camera. And that place that you're in, that's the place that other people want to be in with you. Every content creator I've ever talked to who has experienced radical growth on their channel, or it will always tell you that there was that moment of crazy openness and vulnerability with their audience. And that's when the audience really resonated with them. That's when the audience really galvanized and said, this is my person for life. That's when you really begin to develop those super fans who, even if you came up with like a child's barrette, they would buy that bad boy. Why? Because they are sold out to who you are and what you are there to produce.
Awesome. Perfect. And guys, again, joining me on the phone line from How It All Works, it is Kirk Nugent. Man, that marketing piece, that can be difficult, right? Right. And I know that's something that, obviously we want people to tune into your channel and pick up these tips, but what's a couple of just like simple tips that you would throw out to the listeners on, heading down that path of, okay, now that I've got something to share, how do I share it?
You want to frame it in terms of an answer. So you want to frame it in terms of an answer because the internet, right? All of the major players on the internet recognize this, right? So Facebook, one of the major pieces of Facebook is search. Google's whole bread and butter is search, right? Google.com doesn't even have anything on there. It just has a search bar. Search is usually done in terms of a question. So what you want to do when you have your content, you're saying, this is the thing I want to do, create videos on. You want to frame your content in the perspective of an answer to a question. And you want to make sure that you deliver on the answer to that question in your content. And that will help to inform all the rest of the things that you're doing. So you create the content, you want to put it on spaces that are going to help you get recognized in search. Facebook is good, but Facebook is good, but sometimes the content gets buried. Then you also have YouTube. YouTube, of course, being the king on the block because of the algorithm, the way that the content is. I mean, look, I've got videos that I did 5 years ago. They still get picked up in search. They still answer the question for the people who are looking for the answer to that question. And those videos are still getting comments to this day. So evergreen content, you can find that on YouTube. And so all you got to do now, once you've framed it in the perspective of an answer to a question, is to figure out what those search terms are and tag your video properly. Tag the video properly, name your video, title your video properly, put the proper description in there so that all of those things will help the computer, it will help the algorithm find your content and serve it up to the people who are naturally searching for it. People are searching thousands upon thousands searches a day that go unanswered. So your content has a space out there. And that is one of the easiest, quickest ways to advertise it, to market it to a organic audience, right? Because a lot of times we want to put it on Facebook and we want all of our friends to go, they're not going to watch it. Just take it from me. They're not going to watch it. I don't even share my YouTube videos on Facebook or onto my friend groups anymore because I recognize that it appeals to a specific group. And those people that it appeals to, they're searching for it. And so I'd rather get them because they want the answer. That's what I would say.
Like you said, YouTube king, and everyone knows it, right? Whenever it comes to video. But what's your opinion on some of these alternative video platforms that are kind of, trying to make their presence known in this area as well. Like, I know I've got a buddy, he actually helps with the podcast here, that he does a lot of video work, and he has really leaned into using Odyssey, for example. And a lot of people are like, I have no idea what that is. When you try to say it, well, it's like YouTube, but it's not. What's your thought there on content creators, and should you consider using some of these alternative platforms that are out there?
The thing is, the platforms exist for a specific reason and a specific space, and they all kind of have their own unofficial rules, if that makes sense. Take, for instance, TikTok. They have it actually has its own algorithm, in its own way that it works, and I know people who have figured out what that algorithm, let me not say figured it out, but they figured out their niche in that algorithm, and they've been able to duplicate a measure of success in terms of getting their content picked up by the algorithm and having videos widely viewed and even viral. I mean, I always tell people that, you do have to have a particular strategy for whatever platform you want to be successful on. I don't see any of the people that I follow that are successful. I do not see them doing things where they are doing the same thing on multiple platforms and they're finding the same level of success on all those platforms. And if anything, what you'll end up finding is that people will just stop following them on the other platforms because they're going to get the same exact thing. So you want to look at diversifying what you're going to do on each platform. So like, I'll give you an example, like me with LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, I don't really post as much live video stuff. I post more thought leadership and my speaking engagement. I post that stuff on LinkedIn because that's the kind of crowd that's there, and that's the kind of network that I want to build out so that I can get some of those speaking engagements, and really build up that side of what I do. So being intentional about, okay, in these spaces, what am I looking to put out there? Who am I looking to attract? And what does success look like for me? What does a win look like for me at the end of the day in these particular platforms? That will help you to kind of structure your approach and your strategy.
Perfect. Yes, sir. And man, one thing that I know that you do, as you stated earlier, is you are a man of faith, and you do church consulting as well. So I definitely want to hear a little bit about that and just what you do on that side of things.
Yeah, the churches are unfortunately late adopters. Let me say it that way. They are late adopters, right? To many of the things that are technology related or anything even online. A lot of churches found themselves in the pandemic trying to figure out, how do we even do this? Not because live streaming was new, not because content creation was new or that being online was new, but because they just largely had not shifted into that space. And I think what we've realized now, even if you want to call it post-pandemic, but what we realized at this stage of the game, now that we're a couple years in, we're recognizing that even as churches are in some cases opening back up, it is not going back to normal. It is recognizing a new normal. And that new normal will include online. It will include online ministry. It will include a person that is going to your church from across the globe, and they will never physically come in the building. And you've got to have, a mechanism in place, an entire apparatus that will serve them and shepherd them and disciple them. So that is a space that I get a chance to exist in, work with a lot of churches, not only to build out their church studio, if you will, or their live streaming setup, but also to really rethink what it means to be online and to do ministry online and to use it as a vehicle for gospel delivery. So it is a huge part of what I do. I'm working with a platform called Altar Live right now, which is a phenomenal platform built specifically for churches, faith-based organizations, to have a hybrid space that is kind of in between the live stream and physical in-person church. Altar Live is the name of it, altarlive.com. And so I'm actually one of their church consultants and I actually teach in their Altar Live Academy. And we're actually in the middle of a cohort right now where we've just got one more session left, and we've been walking folks through what it means to really do digital evangelism, right? What does that actually look like? What does it actually take to make that digital pivot to online? What are some of the considerations? What do you need to think through? Who are some of the people you want to have on your team? What are some of the technology platforms you want to employ? So it's really been fun merging those passions for me because, again, faith is definitely one of my passions, something that I absolutely want to be known for. So,
well, Kirk, I appreciate the chance to get to talk with you. But before we hop off here, man, just like, let the people know, where do they follow, support, tap in, all the above?
Yeah, man. Listen, I mentioned those two websites at the beginning of the show, howitallwerks.com, work spelled with an E, and then of course, KirkRNugent.com, and you gotta make sure you keep that R in there. But I'll also share with you my digital business card, which is Kirk10klive.com.
Guys, again, this has been the Industry Insider interview here on 520 Collective Podcast. I want to give a shout out to all of our episode sponsors, especially the bookkeeper247.com. Check them out at tbk247.com for helping make this interview possible. And we will catch you guys on the next podcast. Hey guys, what's up? This is Eric with 520 Collective and the 520 Collective Podcast. I want to talk to you about Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way possible to make a podcast. Let me break it down for you. 1, it's free. That's right, no cost to use Anchor. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will also distribute your podcast for you. So if you want to get on platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and many, many more, then it's really, really easy, guys. You just set up an Anchor account at anchor.fm. You can also make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. Again, make money, no minimum listeners. You're not going to find that anywhere else. It's everything you need to make a podcast, and it's all in one place. So go right now and download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. And make sure you let them know you heard it on 520 Collective Podcast. All right, we're so glad that you tuned in for this episode of the 520 Collective Podcast. In fact, we don't want it to end here. Make sure to join our server on Discord and be part of the growing community that's centered around faith-based hip-hop. Let us know your thoughts about the topics covered in this episode and tap into a variety of live events. Go to 520collective.com/Discord now to join.